Today I'll be going over what has become a very popular exercise recently, kettlebell swings. I'll be demonstrating how you can work in a progression using simpler exercises to work up to doing a full kettlebell swing with proper form. Kettlebell swings are really great for training your glutes, core, back, and legs, basically your whole posterior chain, all the muscles that make up the back half of your body. However, kettlebell swings, they also are a good alternative to lunges or squats for someone who has knee or ankle problems because they're not as weight-bearing of an exercise, so you're putting less weight on those joints, okay? Kettlebell swings do pose a risk for injury though if they're done without proper form. So that's why today I'll be going over how to do kettlebell swings using the proper form and also how to just incorporate them into your workouts if you're a complete beginner. So just to give everyone a little background information on kettlebells, kettlebells started to be used as exercise equipment a long time ago. They're actually used at farmers markets back in the day to determine weight, and then people started doing exercises with them. There's a wide variety of exercises that you can do with kettlebells, but today I'll be focusing on the swings, which is the most basic exercise, and it really trains your whole body, right? Especially your posterior chain. Now there are two different types of kettlebells that you'll see typically. There's traditional iron kettlebells and competition kettlebells. The difference is that traditional iron kettlebells, they do change in size based on the weight. So a heavier kettlebell is going to be larger and have a bigger handle. Sometimes that's not as good though. If you're looking at a smaller kettlebell, the handle might not be big enough for you to fit both of your hands. Competition kettlebells usually are covered in a rubberized surface and they usually are colored. Competition kettlebells usually come in the same size regardless of the weight. So it depends on preference which one you decide to choose to start off with, but I do recommend competition kettlebells for beginners because it's easier to get a grip on them with your hands. The handles are all the same size, okay, for competition kettlebells. Now, kettlebell swings are a great exercise for not just the athletes, but also seniors who like to work out hard because again, like I said before, you're putting less stress on your joints, like with squats or lunges. So for people who maybe have, ligament or joint issues, who want to still work out hard and train their legs and their back and their glutes, kettlebell swings are a great exercise for people who are seniors who still want to train hard. They're also great for people who are busy, who don't have a lot of time to fit in a workout, because you can get a really explosive workout done just doing some kettlebell swings as long as you're doing them with proper form, okay? Now, in order to get a kettlebell, you can look online at your local sporting goods store, but they're pretty readily available nowadays. And you just need one, usually starting off in a heavier weight actually, because if you do a lighter weight kettlebell for your first one, when you're just learning to do the swings, it's actually easier to let your arms take over. And we want to be using our glutes, our back, our legs, okay? So I recommend starting off to get a kettlebell that is competition, although it is your choice whether you do traditional or competition, and around 25 to 35 pounds. You don't want to go super light. That way you'll be forced to do the proper form, which we're about to go over now. So when you're working up to doing a full kettlebell swing, it's really important to do a dynamic warm-up. When you warm up, you want to loosen up your hips, okay? So I'm going to be showing you a few stretches today that you can do prior to doing your kettlebell swings, okay? These are going to help your hip flexibility and help you do the kettlebell swings with better form. Dynamic warm-up means you're doing stretches that are movement-based. You usually want to do a dynamic warm-up before your workout, and then static stretching, where you hold a stretch for time, after, okay? The first stretch that I'm going to show you is called a kneeling hip flexor stretch. So what you're going to do, you're going to get down on one knee, okay? You want your toes flat, the opposite foot forward with your toes pointed slightly outward, okay? Now, keep your eye forward and focus on keeping your core nice and tight, okay? Don't arch your back or forward. You're going to press into that hip, okay? So you're going to slide your weight forward. opening up this hip, okay? Now, to further open our hips, to prepare for doing kettlebell swings, right? We want to loosen up our hips. We're going to then bring this leg out and shift our weight to the side, slide out, push the knee out. See how I'm opening my hip this way? Come back to center, okay? All while keeping your eye up, chest open, okay? So push the knee to the side, slide, back to center. I like to do 3 or 4 repetitions of these, okay? Then come back to here, then do the opposite leg, bring this foot forward. Toes in the back flat, sliding my weight forward so I'm opening my hips, okay? Getting a nice stretch right here. Then I'm going to bring this leg out, just like I did on the other side. Shift my weight to the side, shift my weight to the side, opening my hips, my abductors and adductors, okay? A lot of muscles that you're going to be using for that hip hinge in the kettlebell swing. So the second dynamic warm-up exercise that I'll be showing you is called a Cossack squat. Now this is a really great way to work on shifting your weight from hip to hip, okay? And also just again, opening those hips, because with the kettlebell swings, we're going to be doing a lot of hip hinges, okay? You don't want to let your back take over. The exercise should be powered from your glutes and your hips, okay? That's why you want to do a lot of these dynamic warm-ups in the beginning before you even get into the swings. So with a Cossack squat, you're going to be standing on an angle, okay? One of your feet should be pointed more towards like a diagonal line, the other one horizontal, okay? Really wide stance. You're going to dip down to a squat, shifting your weight this way, okay? See how I'm on my heel here? My shoulders are back, my weight's in the back of my legs, okay? Now I'm going to shift to the other foot. Shift my weight, okay? See how I rolled onto that heel there? And then I shift to the other side. So the next dynamic warm-up that I'm going to be showing you, again, will prepare you for the full kettlebell swings. It's again going to be loosening up your hips. So these are called supine hip circles. Supine means that you're lying flat on your back, okay? So what you wanna do for these is you're going to get a mat, come down on your back. You wanna pull your shoulders back. You never want your shoulders pronated, always tucked in, right? So lie down on your back, shoulders tucked in. Make sure that your lower back is flat. Bring your knees up into a 90-degree angle. You're going to take your knees, open, and bring around in a circle, okay? So they're called supine hip circles. You're lying on your back. Again, so bring the knees towards your chest, around, and down, making a circle. Up, around, down. Make sure that you're looking up and you're breathing nice deep breaths. Then you can also change direction of the circle. So now going down first, up, around, down, up, around, and switch back to up towards your chest first and around, okay? So doing these will help open up your hips, okay? And give you that flexibility that you need to do a proper full kettlebell swing. So the last exercise that I'll be showing you that you can incorporate into a warm-up to progress to doing your full kettlebell swings is called a glute bridge, okay? Now, glute bridge is a really great way to work on that hip hinge and to learn how to focus the weight on your glutes, okay? To use your glutes as the force that's exploding the kettlebell up during the swing. Okay, so if you find that you take over with your back and your arms too much, this is a really great way to work on focusing on using your glutes more for the swings, okay? Now, for a lying glute bridge, you're going to lie on the mat again, okay? You want your feet hip width apart, okay? Now, I like to go on my heels because that forces you to put all the force on your glutes, okay? So on the heels, I'm gonna lie back. You want your hips close enough, your butt close enough to your heels. Now you want to look forward, okay, not directly up. Tuck your head, okay? Tuck your chin. We're gonna tuck our chin, okay? Shoulders tucked. Breathe deep into our core, and then thrust our glute up, squeezing at the top, okay? And lower, not all the way. So I explode my glutes up directly, upward, lower. This is the same motion you're going to be using for the kettlebell swings, okay? So exhale, breathe in as you come down. Exhale, breathe in. So I like to do a couple sets of these. Now, once it becomes easier, you can use a weight. So you could actually use your kettlebell to add some resistance to the glute bridge, okay? So you take your kettlebell. I'm using a 25-pound one today. For this, again, get your feet hip width apart. I like to be on my heels, but you know, that's just so that all the weight's going to be on my glutes, okay? You want to place the kettlebell right across your hip bone, sort of where a belt would lie when you're wearing jeans, okay? So, take your kettlebell, place right across that hip bone right here, okay? Get your feet situated, okay? Tuck your chin, breathe deep into your core, squeeze your abdomen so you're using your core, okay? And then explode those glutes up and squeeze. Exhale. Exhale, breathe in, okay? So this is adding a little resistance. It's going to help you really strengthen your glutes and work on that hip flexibility and your ability to create power to swing the kettlebell up for the kettlebell swings from the glutes. So I would do a couple sets without resistance till you get comfortable with the exercise, and then start adding a little bit of weight, and do these until you feel flexible enough, strong enough in your glutes and hips to start taking on the full kettlebell swing. So after you've done a dynamic warm-up, you're now ready to start breaking down the form for kettlebell swings. So the main principle behind kettlebell swings is a hip hinge, okay? That's where all your power is coming from. So you really want to practice and get the hip hinge down before you start picking up the kettlebell and actually swinging it, okay? So a hip hinge, what you're going to do, you want your feet hip width apart, okay? Your weight should be centered. I like to wear flat base shoes like Converse so that my feet can spread out, okay? You want to think of your hips like a door hinge, moving back, forth, not leading with your back, okay? So often I'm sure you've seen people in the gym and they're doing kettlebell swings where they're leading with their back, they're swinging really far back, overarching their lumbar spine here, okay? They're locking their knees out, or they're rounding their upper back like this, okay? So the hip hinge is going to teach you to swing the weight up using your glutes only, okay? So that's why it's important to get the hip hinge form down before you even start doing a kettlebell swing, okay? With a hip hinge, your feet are hip width apart, eye forward, and you want your shoulders back like this, okay? Now, I like to pretend that there's a rope around my waist and someone's standing behind me, okay? So while keeping my knees slightly bent, but you don't want weight in the front of your foot, and your eye should follow you, so just keep your eye forward. You're going to push your hips back as though someone's pulling a rope here, okay? And then you're going to explode up. See how I squeeze my glutes and thrust my body upward using my hips, okay? So again, breathe down into your core. Your eye follows you, so you don't want to look down, just straight ahead. Push the hip back, back forward. Keep my shoulders back. My knees are slightly bent, okay? Back up. Down, back up. So some examples of how to do this incorrectly are if I'm dipping here, locking my knees out. okay? So we don't want to do that. We want to keep our shoulders back, pushing our glutes back first. Okay, eyes follow, and you should feel a stretch in your hamstrings. Then you're going to explode up. This is like with the kettlebell swing, right? Where you have your feet a little wider, but you're hinging your hip back, explode forward, okay? Now, once you get the hip hinge down without weight, you can try doing it using a little bit of weight to add some resistance to make it a little more difficult, okay? So, I'll use this 25-pound kettlebell here, okay? So, sort of like doing a Romanian deadlift a little bit, practicing the hip hinge, okay? But you want to get into a rhythm where you should feel tension on your glutes and your hamstrings so that when you start doing the kettlebell swings, you're getting the power from the right muscle groups instead of your upper back, okay? So what you want to do, just like before when we practiced without weight, hold the kettlebell right in front, hands nice and close together, okay? You want your weight centered on the center of your feet. Eye follows the body, so don't crane your neck up or tuck chin down. And I simply push my glutes back, my hips back, and explode forward. Breathe in at the top. Exhale. So don't hold your breath, okay? So I like to do a few sets of these with the weight. So again, hip back, hinge forward. So it should feel like a pendulum, okay? You're feeling the weight back here in your hamstrings, eye forward, up. Exhale, breathe in, exhale. Once you get this hinge motion down and exploding from your hips, then you're ready to start working on the actual swings. So now you're finally ready to get into doing full kettlebell swings. Once you got the hip hinge down, you're ready to start with the full swing. Now, like I said earlier, it's best to start off doing with a heavier kettlebell, because with a lighter kettlebell, you might be tempted to take over with your arms and swing really high up, overarch your back, or even round your upper back, okay? A heavier kettlebell is going to force you to use just your hips, okay, with the hip hinge. So, you're going to stand with your feet a little wider than before with the hip hinge. So not just like this, you want a little bit of a gap here so you can swing the kettlebell between your legs. Your heels are slightly in, okay? Again, you want your weight in the center of your foot. Now when you hinge back, okay, and you swing the kettlebell between your legs like this, I'm keeping my shoulders back, okay? My knees are slightly bent, but I'm not putting pure force on my knees, okay? Hinging back, you should feel a stretch in your glute. Your eyes should be directly forward, not down, okay? And when I swing it up, it's almost like I'm locking my glute and exploding into my hip bone, okay? You want to exhale as you swing up and breathe in on the way down. Don't hold your breath, okay? So, to start off, I have a 40-pound kettlebell here. If you're a complete beginner, I'd try maybe 20-pound kettlebell, okay? So, you pick it up now. Again, I like to hinge down to pick it up initially even before I start to swing. So hinge, okay, doing that hip hinge, come up. Now, see how I'm gripping? You want a kettlebell where both your hands can fit nice in the center, okay? Hold it right, nice and draped in front of your hips. Your knees should be slightly bent, eye forward. I'm breathing down into my core, okay, so that my core is braced. You don't want to breathe up into your chest. Take a deep breath and let it sink into your stomach and hold that. Exhale as you swing the kettlebell up, okay? Eye forward, okay? Swing it back, hinge. So see how I'm exploding? My hips forward. My knees are slightly bent. Shoulders back. Exhale, breathe in. Exhale, breathe in. Locking my glute as I swing up. Okay, so that's the correct form. Now in contrast, I'm just going to demonstrate a lot of errors that people do with kettlebell swings, so you can just see things not to do. So you want to avoid taking over with your arms, okay? Swing like this, leaning back onto your heels, okay? You want all the weight and the force driving the kettlebell up to come from back here, okay? Shoulders back, explode. So one more time. Feet a little wider than hip width. Breathing down into my core. Eyes forward. Hinge. Pick up the kettlebell. Okay? Breathe deep into my core. Swing between the legs. And then thrust my glutes and hips explosively forward, like we did in the glute bridge, like we did in the hip hinge. Okay, it's the same kind of concept. So breathing down into my core, swing back, hinge, 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 okay? It's just like doing the hip hinge, but with weight. So once you've gotten the kettlebell swings down, and you want to kind of advance your training using kettlebell swings, there are a plethora of exercises that you can do using them. But if you just want to practice using the swings and train for performance, you can do as many reps as possible for time. So that would mean maybe setting a timer for about 30 seconds and banging out as many reps with the kettlebell swings as possible. But like I said, you want to make sure that your form is good before you start trying to train for performance and power using kettlebell swings, okay? So I would work on the hip hinge first, the stretches that I showed at the beginning of this video, and then doing the basic swings, and then incorporating training for power. So when you're training for power, bang out as many reps as possible, okay, in allotted time. Now, remember, we don't want to hold our breath for this, okay? So I'm going to do 30 seconds, okay? Again, bang out as many reps as possible during that time, okay? Now, you'll notice that my range of motion isn't I'm not swinging it super high. When we're going really explosive, it's back, forth, okay? And you'll notice I'm not holding my breath either. All right, so we're gonna hinge back. Pick up the kettlebell. Make sure our feet are firmly planted on the ground. Shoulders back. Breathe down and deep. And swing. Hinge. 1. I hope everyone enjoys this video and feels inspired to incorporate kettlebell swings into their workouts. Stay safe and healthy and give it your best swing.